you figure it out as you go. Like,
Yeah.
you'll figure it out. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think forgetting the fear for a second and just being like, all right, like, let's see what happens.
I think also a big thing is the kind of the sense of imposter syndrome that begins to creep in as we first came up here. Like, Gabby and I have both backpacked and been in the wilderness like a fairly substantial amount before we came out to Montana, but it was still like, okay, we've done our training, we've done everything we need to be like backpacking guides, to be hiking guides, but now oh shoot, like we have a bunch of guests lined up, like I have to take 7-8 people into the wilderness for 4 days, and like I have to make sure that they're fed and not
Safe.
attacked by bears or insects or anything.
Hey guys, in this episode I'm joined by Gabby and Wade Holm. They live in a van and work as hiking guides in West Glacier, Montana. For their job, they take people out for remote, multiple-day backpacking trips through the wilderness. In the episode, we talk about how they got their start, why nature conservation is so important, and what it's like taking a non-conventional career path. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Okay, cool. I think we're all going. I appreciate this, guys.
Yeah.
Super cool of you.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. It's years in the making.
Yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know Wade or Gabby, they are both hiking guides in Montana. We're in West Glacier, Montana right now. And I guess the way I usually start these things, the point of this is not to talk about how to get a job or how to succeed in college or, you know, how to become a great artist or any of that kind of stuff. It's more about the why. I don't know either. I don't think anybody does. Well, and I think like I really admire you guys. Like, you guys have taken a leap of faith and you're guiding people through the wilderness of Montana and you're doing all these epic things. You're living out of a van together. And I think a lot of people like admire that kind of like, you know, bravado and all that stuff to go and do your own thing, you know, to kind of go off a little bit of the beaten path. And it's part of the reason why I wanted to talk with you guys in general. But did you have any initial thoughts or anything? Or
I think that's something that kind of we both have been trying to figure out and kind of struggled with, just breaking out of the niche of feeling like you have to do what the norm is or what the expected thing to do is. But I feel like for me personally, I've had like a really solid support system. Some people that really have inspired me to be able to take the leap and do something that really matters to me. And what matters to me is being outside, being conservation minded, caring about these beautiful places and wanting to preserve them and then connecting people to them. So that's kind of been part of the driving motivation for me, kind of coming out here and going for it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's like for a lot of people, I think people overthink the dreams that they have, you know. I think it's really easy to be like, I can't do the thing I really want to be doing, you know. And often I'm finding it's a lot more of it is like the hardest part is like the leap of faith to actually doing it rather than the actual act of doing it, you know.
Yeah, I think I'm really inspired by Gabby here, as we've been married for just over 2 years now. It's really cool seeing her growing her art business, growing the things that she is passionate about. She's really good about seeing kind of a goal rather than seeing all the obstacles to navigate to get to that goal. For me, a lot of the way that I navigate is, let's look at the next challenge I have to face. How am I going to circumnavigate that? How am I going to get through this? But for her, it's kind of just like keep going no matter what. And that's really given me a whole lot of, the ability to keep going through stuff. And even when you start to trip, start to tumble, being able to kind of keep going.
That's really nice. Thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
That's very sweet of you.
Well, and I guess as I'm moving forward with my own stuff, the fear and the like discomfort are real things. You know, it's like you both live in a van, and you know you both like struggle with the monotony of that as well. And I think part of the reason that like the point of this podcast again is more finding like the why of doing it, because I think that anyone can like spend a day doing something uncomfortable. Anyone can spend a day, you know, like fishing or trying to hike in the woods or something, but it takes like a deeper reason to try and figure out like, how do I make this sustainable, you know, because it does suck at certain points, you know.
Yep, it does.
I think it's also really cool that you are someone who's taking a step out from that norm and are traveling around, interviewing people that are inspirational. I think that's like, I don't know, that's pretty wild as well. And every time that you've come up to visit, well, I guess the 2 times you have in the past 3 years, which is sweet, like a lot.
So epic.
Sick. Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
It's been like really encouraging, but on those occasions for sure.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, Gabby, do you have any thoughts or anything on this stuff? Or?
I don't know. I feel like, I don't know which one thing to choose.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure where to start.
Hey guys, I wanted to take a second to talk about the mentorships I'm hosting. Mentorship is personally something I found super useful. Having someone to bounce ideas off of, get critiqued by, and get general advice was instrumental to my development as an artist and as a person. I spent most of my professional life helping other people develop their brands and businesses. And if you'd be interested in having the same help, I'm charging $150 a month for a 1-hour phone call, access to me on Discord, and general art advice. In my experience, every successful person that I've talked to has spent a ton of time and money on their own education. Check out my website in the description if you'd like to see more information on it. If you'd like to talk with me before committing, that's totally fine. Contact me on my website for a 20-minute call to see if it'll work for you. Thanks, and back to the video.
Do you have anything specifically that's inspired you personally to be able to kind of step outside of the norm? Being up in Northwest Montana?
I feel like that's been a big one, just like coming out here, because I feel like it was really fast moving. Like when we first got married, we literally applied to this job like on our honeymoon, kind of like on a whim.
To do it.
We were like, let's see what happens, and like applied. We were in like a really shady hotel in Coos Bay in Oregon, and we submitted our applications, and we literally just kind of were like, let's see what happens. Like, I honestly didn't think I was gonna get the job for whatever reason. I was like, they're not gonna take me, but I don't know. I feel like it's proven to be. I don't know. I feel like I've learned a lot through being up here and like through living really minimally. Just you don't need a whole lot, and to keep learning self-reliance throughout your life, and to learn from other people, I think is really valuable. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that's really broad, but.
Well, I don't know. I think it's like, I think everyone I know has struggled with the idea of like going to college, getting a degree, getting a job, that whole thing. And even people that I know that have done it really well, they're like, man, this sucks, you know? And I think that like, doing what you guys are doing is like, again, it's like a giant leap of faith, and it does like take a little, like it is as easy as just like asking for it and applying on a random website and just seeing what happens. You know?
But you're right though. The scariest part is like doing it first, because like you figure it out as you go. Like you'll figure it out. You'll be fine. It's just like, I think forgetting the fear for a second and just being like, all right, like let's see what happens.
I think also a big thing is the kind of the sense of imposter syndrome that begins to creep in as we first came up here. Like Gabby and I have both backpacked and been in the wilderness like a fairly substantial amount before we came out to Montana, but it was still like, okay, we've done our training, we've done everything we need to be like backpacking guides, to be hiking guides, but now oh shoot, like we have a bunch of guests lined up, like I have to take 7-8 people into the wilderness for 4 days, and like I have to make sure that they're fed and not attacked by bears or insects or anything.
Insects are fine. They can handle insects.
They can sometimes.
Sometimes,
But go ahead.
But you're also carrying like 70 pounds of weight and stuff, like their sandwiches and water and all
Yeah.
that. And it's super gnarly.
I think part of it was like just I don't know that the imposter syndrome was well founded, because we have had experience like outside, and it is coming from a sincere place of like wanting to be in beautiful places and experience wildlife and share that with people. It just kind of, I don't know where that kind of creeps in. Did you experience that at all?
I think my first year definitely. But by the end, like, I think I've always just had this thing like since I was a child that I can't not like share stuff that I know about the wild, like about animals and plants and stuff. And so this job is like a very literal application of getting paid to do that. So I feel like now, like this being our 3rd year out here, I feel really comfortable with the wilderness out here. Not so much to where I'm careless, like you can't be careless, but I feel comfortable with it. Like it's familiar, and I feel confident that I can be responsible for people and like educate them. But yeah, I think I did feel that at first. I was kind of like, what the heck am I doing?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like part of this stuff is like that ability to like push back against the hurdles and the bad feelings, because it is pretty hostile up here in terms of like if you get trapped outside at night in Glacier Park, that's pretty bad, you know.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. Kind of keeping your head on a swivel, always thinking on your toes. There's definitely going to be things that outside throws at you that you didn't necessarily get in your training manual or something.
Right.
And I think, just being able to kind of roll with that. And I think sometimes the most difficult thing is like keeping people stoked and keeping people like in high spirits. Like, even though it's been raining for the past 3 days, this is a wonderful experience.
Yes.
We don't often get rain like this torrentially, right, guys? And like kind of trying to get everyone amped on that. That's definitely a challenge. And like you yourself keeping your morale internally high.
Yeah, that's a hard part too.
Yeah.
I think I forget about that sometimes. Like I had a lot of, Wade can attest to this. I had a lot of back-to-back days last year. I think I worked like 30 days straight last year. And like in between those trips, I would just like come home and like cry for a second and then leave for the next one. I was like, okay, bye. Because that's like the only time you have to process your own emotions. But I don't know. I think I feel like this job has taught me a lot about like remembering to check in on myself as I'm checking in on others, and then also like being super adaptable and like spinning things in a positive way for people. I think this job teaches you that really well.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's slightly ironic that like you could be more spiritually and comfortably fulfilled being in the woods, having to like share a public bathroom and all this stuff, rather than being in like a corporate office and like you know, being super comfy, having all these nice meals all the time and stuff, and you know.
I think the when you see people like Wim Hof or like David Goggins, and they're constantly depriving themselves of any sort of like comfortable experience. You're kind of like, oh, why would you ever want to do that? Why is it something that you want to do? But the more that I've experienced being in uncomfortable situations, that you're kind of having to keep grinding and keep pushing, the more I'm realizing that I don't know what exactly the science behind it, but it really does bring up. It produces so much gratitude in the moments that you are comfortable, that you are with loved ones, sharing a meal, or you are talking to an old friend. It makes it so much more beautiful in those moments. And I'm not like a masochist, like, oh, I'm gonna go torture myself in the woods for like weeks or whatever. But I don't know. It provides a lot of perspective.
Yeah.
For sure. I feel like it's really helpful. Like, that's something that's really cool, too, is being able to see people light up about it for the first time and, like, be amazed at what they're seeing. And I think that does take a certain degree of being deprived of all of your creature comforts, because it's, like, it's distractions at the end of the day from a lot of the important stuff, I think. Like, that's what I've come to realize. Maybe that's a little extreme, but
I would agree with you, actually. You know, I think I think people's natural. I'll wait until this this passes. Sorry, everybody. But yeah, I think so. There's like that biblical quote. It's like you can, or I don't know what, maybe Paradise Lost or something, but you can make a hell of heaven and a heaven of hell. You know, and I think that. It's ironic that you could be surrounded by some of the nicest food, some of the like all creature comforts, all that stuff, and still be depressed and sad and stuff. And again, you could be pooping in the woods and be like, "Oh, this is sick."
Yeah,
you know?
I'm so happy every time I poop in the woods.
Well, and I think it's like it's to me, the idea of like God and having like an awesome life is around us at all times. It's just our ability to see it. You know. Like even in San Diego, there's or Southern California, where we're all from, there's like some pretty cool stuff that I just don't pay attention to all the time, you know, that I kind of lose sight of a little bit.
Yeah, and kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, I think a lot of for me, a lot of the good way to keep going despite like the grindiness or like being stuck in this rut or in the valleys, kind of in the trenches, is having that kind of compass and having like the reason for why you want to keep pushing forward, and like why am I out in the woods here? Or, like, why am I in discomfort? And kind of realizing the bigger picture. And I think for Gabby and I, it's like that we care about these places, and that's pretty cool. And even in California, you can find those beautiful moments where you can connect to like a spectacular place. Like for me, it's diving in the kelp forests. But I don't know if you necessarily have to do that. I know we've talked a little bit about that, and you find it really, really a lot easier to connect to God, kind of being up in Montana, where just like it's so in your face beautiful.
Yeah. I think because I feel like I just don't spend as much time in the ocean as I would like.
Yeah.
And it's also, I don't know, it's just more concrete.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time with that. I've
expensive
realized.
as well. Yeah.
So expensive.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I don't know. I think I just realized I don't do well being surrounded by like artificial things.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the more I come out here, the more it feels like this is real life, and that's like some weird fever dream.
I mean, I think for most of the world, most of the planet is like forest and not populated and stuff. Well, and I might sound a little bit hippie here, but I think with that kind of like civilization and lots of infrastructure and stuff comes like expectations. Like, you can't poop in like San Clemente Pier.
Please don't do that.
But you can like, just go over there and, but it's like, there's a lot of expectations with how much money you should earn and things you can or can't do. Like places you can or can't go, where here there's like a lot more freedom to do more of the things that you might want to do.
Yeah. And I hope that remains, because like in a lot of like western towns across like the mountain range or the Rocky Mountains, a lot of that's kind of changing, and there's a lot of like wealth coming into those places. So I hope it stays that way, because those are ways of life that are really important to the people that live out here. Gabby and myself included, seasonally, I would say, kind of getting to enjoy pursuing what we want on our own terms. Rather.
Sorry, it's part of the podcast. It's part of the loud sounds in the background. It'd be super cool if a bear just came out of here and.
I'd be ready.
With the bear spray.
Always got the bear spray on the hip.
Always.
Well, I feel like these sorts of things, it starts with that like day-to-day moment-to-moment decision, where it's like, deciding to get up in the morning and like, make breakfast and step out into the world is like part of the huge step of going and I think doing great things, and it might seem mundane, but like the ability to see meaning and purpose in that, I think, is actually the thing that lets people go and do things that they really want to be doing.
Yeah. I love that Gandalf quote where it's like, I believe it's the small everyday good things of like everyday folk that keeps the darkness at bay.
Oh yeah.
And I really like kind of resonate with that. I think that's really true.
Right.
And you don't have to be kind of on stage as yelling your own, achievements and accomplishments. It can just be like loving a friend, being there for a family member, offering a meal, and like small things like that.
100%. Well, and I think that the desire to be like the Aragorn, like, leads to wanting to be great is pretty dangerous too.
I agree.
Yeah,
that's an interesting thing too, is like I feel like that, I don't know, it's really interesting. I think that there's a healthy way to aspire for things that are great, like for yourself and wanting to provide that, versus like to be great. I think that there's a difference there.
Right.
I think that's another thing that's really refreshing about being out here, is that it's not this like really intense pressure that you feel all the time. Like, what are you hustling towards? Like, that's not a thing out here, really. It's like, oh, what are you doing this season? Nothing. Cool.
Like, epic,
it's
dude.
Fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally fine. And
great for you.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think there's pros and cons to both, but I tend to feel more like the extreme expectation of like having to meet a certain caliber, especially like financially or materially, or like in a status thing is, I don't know. I don't think that that's fulfilling. Or I don't think it can be fulfilling for the long term.
Yeah, it's so arbitrary, and it goes to a crazy level too. Like there are billionaires that are self-conscious about how much money they have. It's a strange world, and I think Wade and I were talking about it earlier, but there's so many expectations thrown onto everybody from the beginning of their life, like where they're going to go to college, what they're going to be when they grow up, and you know, who they're going to marry, and who are you going to be friends with, like, and those expectations, I think, like, they drive people to do some crazy things sometimes.
I feel like that's something I'm really grateful for, just in being with you, is that I feel like, especially since we've been married, but like really ever since we've been together, I don't feel like we've really had to worry about, I don't know, something about being with you makes me not worry about any of those expectations, which is really nice. And I don't know, I feel like especially being out here, it's just been really cool to be able to basically just try to find life with you.
Yeah.
It's been pretty fun.
I feel like I kind of sit in the tension, like the confliction between kind of when I go back to California and feeling the pressure of like wanting to be hustling and like figuring it out and like automating all the business processes possible.
Right.
But then there's the moments here where I come out and it's like, whoa, like this is what it's about, like connecting with friends and family in moments of sincerity and having genuine human connection rather than like kind of an artificial one. And I don't know, maybe I've just had some poor experiences in corporate America. I think there are great possibilities out there for sure. I think for me, I need to be really intentional about engaging and making meaningful relationships in that context.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of this stuff is like an active decision, you know, because it is hard to make that choice. You know, it's hard to push back against your friends and family that want the best for you, that like, oh, you should make money, I'm gonna set you up with this person, I'm gonna introduce you to this guy, you should go to the school. Like, it's a lot, you know. It's a lot to say no as well. I remember somebody saying to me, it's like, it's brave to do something and also brave not to do something. Because there are consequences to either, and you know, you have to live with both.
And I don't know, I don't want to lean fully away from like all ambition ever. I still really want to focus on personal growth and like relational growth and spiritual growth, all the dynamics and like all the KPIs. But I also want to just be cognizant of it's okay to kind of take a slower moment to listen to people, hear them out.
Well, I talked to a lot of people about this, about like social media and like pursuing money and fame and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if it's entirely unethical. It's like, from as far as I can tell, like wanting to be accepted into people and to have a lot of resources is like inbuilt into us, you know, to like take care of our families and friends and to buy some sick stuff and you know, and I think the trouble is that side can go out of control way faster than the like hang out with friends and family side. You know.
Go ahead.
But I feel like there is a reasonable amount of like, I want to make some money, you know, I want to.
Yeah, of course. I think everyone deserves at least a shot at being able to make a good life for themselves. And I don't think it's a bad thing to want that. But you're right. I do think that there's a slippery slope, and it's really interesting because I think wanting all the things and like all the boxes checked is a lot more shiny and flashy than the really mundane moments with people that matter. So that's often what becomes the focus. So I don't know.
And I'm not sure why that ambition can, you know, get out of control so quickly compared to like.
I think it's because it's like admirable to want something,
right?
It's admirable to like I think we all admire like, you know, Michael Jordan or you know, like people that are like willing to hustle and spend 15 hours a day studying their craft and stuff, and like people make movies about that, like Steve Jobs, who didn't really treat his daughter that well, but you know, he's like, you know, extremely changed the world, and we all like look to that as like a great life lived, you know. But at the same time, I think it's, you know, I don't know if being Steve Jobs was a great thing to. It doesn't seem great moment to moment, you know. And I think it's all about like finding that balance between like that great things that we all want to pursue, but also like keeping one foot in like a realistic life, you know. Because like again, I think like a meaningful life is all around us at all times. It's just a matter of like our ability to look at it and be like, oh, I'm happy with just this, you know.
Totally.
And some of the wisest people I know are the biggest proponents of like the idea of balance and continuing to try and maintain that healthy balance between like being ambitious, being non-egotistical, and just being a good friend. I think it's a really difficult thing to do, especially like because being ambitious can bolster that ego, and then it just begins to like really uneven or make the table super uneven. And it gets out of whack pretty quickly. But I don't know. I like that. Balance is definitely an important aspect of it, for sure.
But I think the actual application of it is really, really hard.
It's really hard.
I mean, I think you see people that like they want something that is pretty reasonable to want, but they do it in like the complete wrong way, you know.
It's really like some of the people that really inspire me the most are like people like John Mark Comer, who was the pastor of Bridgetown Church in Oregon for a while. He's this like really kind of like slow, kind of spiritually enlightened fellow. But then when he talks about who he really is, he's like this super fast paced, like, I need to do this and I need to win at all costs, kind of like ruthless business person. And I don't know, it's wild that both of those can be like, you can see this side of him that's like super slow and like almost monk-like. And then from his perspective, he's like this ruthless like business person. Like how does that check out?
Well, I think it's the idea, like the Christian idea of like the like apple of Eden, you know, where you eat this apple and you're inbuilt with some pretty fucked up shit. You know? It's like, I want money, you know, I want to win, I want all this stuff, and it's like that idea doesn't make you a horrible person. It's how you approach those feelings, and how do you it's like the integrating the darkness into yourself. In the same way that like Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, he didn't want to be king of Gondor because he saw how his ancestors handled power, you know. And it's like Boromir thought that he could handle the One Ring, so he's like, I'm gonna kill Frodo, because you know, it's like you start justifying things in your head because you think that you can be the powerful person and stuff. And,
I think that's like one of the most radical concepts for me is like grace, forgiveness, and reconciliation. Because like there's definitely times where you just want like absolute justice to be dealt to people who are taking advantage of the system, like abusing.
Approaching a bighorn sheep.
I saw a used diaper over there that somebody littering.
Oh no!
And like you just want like instant like justice.
Like put them in front of a firing squad.
It's
just so ludicrous.
But then at the same time, when you see that grace and like reconciliation and forgiveness, that's like wild. It's almost like inhuman. Sometimes.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what like helps call us to be all better people.
Well, I think that it like, the trouble often is like being seen as weak or something, you know. Because if you have the power to try and punish somebody that has done wrong, the inclination for most people is to do that, and if you don't do it, then it's seen as like you're not using your power properly or something sometimes. And
that's an interesting concept. I feel like that kind of gets back to this very specific idea of what justice means and like what strength means, and I don't think that how popular culture defines strength and justice is what it actually is. And I mean, that's my opinion, but that's kind of just what I've seen. I don't think strength is never being vulnerable and like punishing people for doing wrong to you. I think it's being willing to like quietly forgive and then move on.
Yeah.
And then like that's it.
Yeah.
Like it's completely unglamorous and like unflashy.
No glory.
No glory.
Not about you at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's true strength.
Yeah.
And justice.
Yeah. I think that's one of the key things that I feel like I've been learning lately is that it's not necessarily about like others' perception of you, because you can never really change someone else's perception of you. Like you and I have been talking about like me potentially starting a YouTube channel, and I've expressed a ton of objections like, oh, what if people don't like this, or what if people don't like that? And at the end of the day, like there is not a neutral enough stance that you can take that people are not going to at some point be upset with you or angry with you, and there's nothing you can do to change their perception or their perspective of that. You kind of just have to roll with it. And I think there's something painful but also beautiful about that kind of realization for me, because like I really strive to be liked by people, and it serves me well in like a customer service type of role, like being a guide, because then I generally am trying to get people to like me and enjoy their experience. But there's a time where it's like this isn't going to go the way I think it's going to go.
100%.
And I need to be who I am in this situation.
Yeah. Well, I talk about this a lot, but on a broader scale too, it's like you choose almost nothing about your personality and your identity. It's like you don't choose your gender, where you're from, your skin color, the shape of your eyebrows, your family, parents, sisters, brothers, any of that kind of stuff. And, how much money you have, any of that stuff, like all that stuff arguably makes up more of who you are than the things that you choose. And like just thinking about it that way, there are going to be people inherently that you just don't necessarily resonate with or can't relate to as much as others, you know. And like it's almost like like having an identity and being a person is synonymous with conflict, you know? Right.
Yeah. And I don't think conflict is a bad thing, and I have to remind myself that all the time, because
right.
in my mind I'm like, conflict bad.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad thing, and like I feel like we've had a lot of conversations about this, and I've been talking with our really good friend about it too, who's also visiting.
Yeah.
But like you just can't please everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we're meant to be able to do that, and for good reason. I think it's like our differences are what make being a human really beautiful. And it's okay if you're not friends. Like that can either teach someone else something or teach you something, whether that's positive or negative. And it's just part of I think it's just part of a really cool whole interconnected thing, you know, kind of like the woods.
The Mises system.
Oh, what's it called? I'm forgetting, like the hyphae of fungi and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess fungus connect like pretty much every plant in the woods.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, they do. It's really cool.
I actually am a fungus.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I could tell.
I became sentient.
I knew it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I get fungus vibes.
Fungus among us.
He's a fun guy.
Fun guy.
I'm sorry.
Oh, man. Yeah. But I don't know. I think when it comes to like actually choosing something and actually having a career and actually having a life, you have to make a lot of like sacrifices, and you have to make a lot of like, this is dumb, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyways, you know? Because no matter what you do, people are going to judge you.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, that's a bad idea. And a lot of the time, the people that you're closest to will be like, oh, you're pretty dumb, you know?
Yeah, the most severe.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important part of finding your why, you know? And like finding the thing that, you know, it doesn't matter what the outcome is, it's having the chance to have done it that makes it worth doing, you know?
Totally.
Yeah, with all this stuff, it's difficult to it's a lot easier said than done, you know? I feel like I learned these lessons when I was like 12, but then it's just like applying them at a much larger and larger scale as I'm getting older, you know?
Yeah. It's kind of funny, like, I feel like I think back to certain things that I heard growing up, and it's really funny because, like, my kid ears just were like, yeah, of course, obviously, like, do things that mean a lot to you, But then when you actually are faced with making those choices, it's like really hard.
Yeah.
Because people still tell you to do that, but expect something different. They're like, do what you love as long as it makes you money and like, you know, ends you up in X, Y, and Z place and you're married by this age and, you know, like all this other.
Right.
It's crazy.
All the caveats. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking, there's definitely, it's cool that we've been able to so far find a balance between doing the things we love and like you're, you know, charging in marine ecology and I'm doing photography and you're doing art and like still being able to save some money, make ends meet, train time.
I know, I was like, no,
train time.
Trick or train.
That's not that bad.
That's not too bad.
Not horrible.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Again, I think with all this stuff, it's like a constant push and pull of all that of like everything. You know? Is it getting louder or quieter?
It might be one of the long ones.
It should totally like stop for a long time, but then be squeaking the whole time. You know?
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Oh, it's squeaking.
A little bit. You guys want to wait until it passes?
Sure.
It might be a long one, so maybe.
Okay, we'll wait 1 minute.
Okay.
I don't know. With like moving forward too, like a lot of people want to, you know, go off and do these sorts of things, like go to Montana, like do things that they dream of. Like, do you guys have any advice for taking those leaps of faith or anything?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I guess there's a whole lot of like practical advice you could give, like make sure you know have a somewhat of a living situation, have a secured income or whatnot. But I think ultimately it comes down to like, is this something that you really want, and is this something that's going to inspire you and encourage you? Because I think that a lot of the money will come if you do find yourself in a beautiful place that you really love.
Yeah.
I don't know, like that's someone that I look up to. That's often a belief that he holds, is like the money will come once you're doing something that you really love. And I think that's the truth. I think there's a lot of like stigmas around it about, you know, doing the things even though they're unconventional. But like a lot of people will tell you based on like periphery experience, like they haven't specifically experienced something like moving to Montana or like Alaska themselves, or moving out of the country for a while, and they'll be like, oh, you shouldn't do that, that's not like the wise thing, that's not like saving money or whatever. But personal experience can go a long way. And I'm not saying like base everything off of just pure personal experience, like the dogmatic fool, but I think it helps to get a little bit of your own perspective.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's pretty silly how extreme some of the things can get in terms of how like afraid people are of Montana sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, for like as an example, like people think that bears are just like running around, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you're like.
I think debunking bear myths is like one of my single most favorite things to do out here.
Yeah.
It's great.
I reinforce all of them.
Yeah, I mean, 30% of your troop is eaten on every trip by bears.
Yeah,
right?
we aim for a 70% return rate.
Yeah, and on a good day too.
Yeah, on a good day. It's usually more like 50-40.
Well, you're going there to sacrifice them to the bear gods, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the main reason we're here.
Do you have a really common bear myth that you guys dispel, or for anyone that's listening, like?
Yeah, there's a few.
What's a common one?
People think like today, like almost every single hike, I have to tell at least one person like, hey, bears are not bloodthirsty carnivores that are going to seek you out and eat you. That would be a mountain lion.
Yeah.
And even then it's like
it's pretty rare.
It's pretty rare. Like you're not going to see a mountain lion unless it wants to eat you.
I could take a mountain lion, I think.
Okay. I don't know. I think that's a fun one to debunk and then explain, like, especially glaciers bears are like 85% vegetarian and like have so much plant diversity here that why would they waste energy on trying to eat meat when they have just as many calories in plants? It's like, I don't know. Bears are lazy. Like they're gonna just do the easiest thing.
Yeah.
and that's what they do.
Yeah, well, it seems like the most dangerous thing here is like running water, or something.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah,
that's like the biggest cause of death in the park.
Yeah,
is drowning.
Yeah, I guess that would be my second piece of advice. Like, don't go near running water if you're going to come up to Montana.
Yeah.
Or like, just be wise about it.
Yeah.
How about walking water?
That should be fine.
Okay. Well, and I know I asked this too, but like, the water being drinkable or not,
Oh yeah,
that's a pretty common.
That's a common question. Some people still do it. Some people still like will scoop their water bottle in a body of water, and like, I don't recommend that because animals like
they poop in there,
and pee and die in the water.
Yeah,
like even at the top of glaciers when it's as pure as you can get.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's nasty stuff in it. I would
pretty
filter
gnarly.
it.
Yeah, like
for sure.
Like grizzlies especially will go in the early season in the spring right after they wake up from their nap. They'll go and look for winter-killed goats and sheep that have been killed higher up on the peaks. Yeah. Or if they've fallen a little bit down, they'll go and dig out their carcasses. So there's like animal bits like definitely coming down.
Oh yeah.
As the snow melts.
Rotting carcasses.
Even if you're up in like some beautiful alpine habitat where it's like, wow, this lake is crystal clear, it's blue as the sky. There's probably a lot of Giardia, Cryptosporidia, a couple other waterborne viruses and bacteria in there. So I would advise against that. There are people that go 10 years drinking the water straight from the source and somehow are okay.
I just worked with someone who did that for many years, and then as soon as he got Giardia, started filtering everything and said that every year he drank unfiltered water wasn't worth it because it was so bad.
It seems horrible.
It doesn't hit you until like 7 days later.
Oh man,
it's gnarly.
It's brutal.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Definitely things to avoid. Also hypothermia. Like you can go hypothermic like any day of the year in Montana, and at least in the mountains. Yeah. It's just like the water will cool you down so quickly. It's a real threat, but I don't know. A lot of I'd say like also make sure you're educating yourself on the place that you want to be spending time in.
Absolutely.
Gabby and I came up here for a week before one summer, and then the following summer we came back as full-time seasonal employees.
Right.
So I would recommend maybe like scoping it out, doing some research, getting some local insight before you take the plunge.
And like learning responsible recreation, I think is a huge deal, especially like as more and more people are wanting to get outside and like spend time in the wilderness, which I think is awesome. Like everyone should be able to do that. Yeah. But I also think that comes with their responsibility because like it's public land, so we all have a right to it. So treat it right. Like, just because it's public land doesn't mean that you can treat it however you want. If you want it to still be there, like for your grandkids or like the next person after you. Yeah. So I feel like that's a big deal too.
Yeah, we went up there a couple days ago to Logan Pass. Yeah. And if you look around there's a ton of tracks all over the snow, like in the snowfield crossing we went to. But if people didn't stay on the trails after the snow melted, all of the vegetation, like those alpine meadows, would be trampled within 3 days. Yeah. They would be like a dust bowl. Right. If people didn't stay on the trails there. So that's like something that I think we both deeply care about as well. Yeah. Respecting, especially in a place like Glacier Park where there's there's people treading like everywhere. It's like millions of people, quite literally. Like I think there's like 3 million visitors a year in Glacier Park. That's crazy. Mostly in the summer.
Yeah. But I feel like when it comes to the fear side of doing all this stuff, the over exaggerations are like extremely comedic,
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I think people don't worry about the things they should worry about, and it's like fun to be able to educate people on that. Yeah. I enjoy that part of our job. Yeah. And like not even because like it's not because it's like not an ego reason. It's because it's like you genuinely are trying to help people enjoy the outdoors the best way possible for themselves and for other people. And it's really cool to see people generally react like, oh, I had no idea, like thanks for telling me. And then they go on to tell other people, and like everyone can enjoy the space well. So I enjoy that part of our job too.
Yeah. I think also like not to misinform people, like bears are not like cuddly teddy teddy bears.
They're
Like
not.
they're not something that you want to be interacting with physically or at all close to them.
Yeah.
Like it's still a very dangerous omnivorous animal that could kill you very quickly.
Yeah.
But I just think in a lot of media they've been portrayed as like vicious, bloodthirsty monsters. Same as sharks. Like
Totally.
it's been really fun learning kind of bear body language a bit more.
Yeah.
Just because we've seen quite a few bears at this point. And knowing like a lot of the time they're just disinterested in you.
Yeah,
They're
they don't want anything to do with you. They're just doing their thing.
Like, but I think, like for me, when I think back on the most awesome family trips I had growing up, a lot of them weren't like in fancy hotels.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if any of them, like the most memorable ones were, they were camping with like close family and close friends, and really leaning into getting connected to a natural place. And that's something that really inspires me, is like having people feel connected somewhere.
Yeah.
Because that's only going to be a positive feedback loop of people wanting to preserve places like this, preserve bears, preserve wildlife, preserve the biodiversity that we have. And I mean, it could expand into establishing more national parks, more public land, so that it's more accessible to more people. Like, not a lot of people can fly or drive out to Montana on a whim, to experience something like this. We're fortunate enough that we've been able to, but it'd be cool if like people could experience their local fauna and flora to the full capacity that they're meant to.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with just like making the decision to actually spend time doing it.
Yeah.
Like, reading the books and actually going out and enjoying it and stuff.
And like being humble. I think it's never a good idea to go outside with the motivation of like, I am going to conquer the wilderness.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, the wilderness
it's
is
gonna win.
conquer you.
100% of the time.
And like, if you do conquer the wilderness, you're just like destroying something that will be lost. Like, I don't know. I think you have to go into it being humble. Like I still every single year learn so much. Like, just stuff I had no idea about. Then I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'll adjust how I recreate for that. And,
like when I go diving in the ocean or like spearfishing, I could be full tilt prepared, have every like piece of gear that I need, and have done all the research possible. But if I'm in the middle of the ocean and like swell picks up, the wind picks up, like all of a sudden I'm in a different situation, and it's like I'm at the whim of the elements. I think there's something really humbling about that. And obviously avoiding that situation, but that doesn't happen. But,
well, it is a balance to you know, seeing bears as something that they're not bloodthirsty, horrible animals, but they're also not your pets.
Totally, not a petting zoo.
And on a broader level, like going from enjoying the park to also thinking about like, you know, how can this relate to, you know, building your own parks or growing like. Increasing conservation, any of that kind of stuff. And I think it always goes back to the why of like, you know, believing that stuff to be important in the first place, and then seeing it as something that's possible that you can contribute to.
Right. And I think a lot of people can, like even in very metropolitan zones, there's great opportunities to go birding. Like find like pretty epic, unique birds like to your specific area. And like no other places in the world are going to experience that. So I don't know, like the more people that are aware of that, those birds are obviously going to have better opportunities to grow and nest and have the right habitat to succeed and thrive. And just like being more aware of the detriments to survival of our biodiversity and stuff like that.
I agree. Well said.
Have you ever fought a bear in the wild?
No, but we've gotten pretty close to yours. Or I guess they've gotten really close to us. I don't know.
No. I've blasted a bear with some bear spray.
Oh yeah, I did last year.
But the bears are really smart animals, and like bear spray works if you get it in their face. If you don't get them in the face, it's kind of like
pointless.
It's but a glancing blow. It doesn't really do much to him. This bear knew the effective range of bear spray, and like kind of turned his head and moved away.
They recognize the can if they've been sprayed before, which this bear clearly had. Like he recognized people as a association with food, and so as soon as Wade like whipped it out, he saw it and like turned around.
Like, oh shit.
He's like, oh, I don't want that, and like turned around and ran away.
Yeah.
But if a bear's heading towards you, it's going to work. The bear's, I mean, unless he's backing up to you, super speed.
Or like charging you.
Yeah.
Last minute. But, I mean, usually, I don't know. I think those scenarios of, like, having to use your bear spray are really avoidable.
Yeah.
Like, really, really avoidable. Because bears, we just recently had a bear biologist come speak at our company. And, like, they treat humans the same way as they treat other bears.
Yeah.
And so they give you so many body language signals to let you know, like, I'm pissed, get out of my space, or, like, I don't care about you.
Yeah.
Or, like, like anything else.
Yeah, some of them are pretty fluent in different languages as well.
Yeah, French and...
Yeah.
I heard that they're developing a human spray to fend off humans.
You know, they actually are. It's true.
Oddly enough.
Yeah, I saw a grizzly the other day testing out a prototype.
Inert can?
Huh?
Inert can?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
He had an AR-15 as well.
Yeah, they're using a stinging nettle.
Oh, gee. Man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that, like, I feel like we can learn so much from bears.
Yeah.
They're very similar to humans in that we're both omnivorous, like eat an extremely varied diet. We noticed that bears eat certain types of plants to help them either in digestion or especially up here in northwestern Montana, they eat a type of plant called false hellebore, and that helps them to fall asleep before they go into the winter. And like that's them self-medicating basically,
right?
Which is wild that an animal can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's very easy to eat too much of that plant because it basically shuts down your organ function.
Yeah.
So it'd be very easy to eat a little too much.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
my organs. Oh no, dang it. Yeah.
It's wild that they know like how much to eat, like, and it's passed down knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really cool. They're such cool animals.
Yeah, I feel like it's super easy to underestimate the wildlife in nature, and it's easy to think that like humans and civilization is above that, but it's pretty like exists in tandem a lot of the times, and
What was it that we just read about jays, like blue jays and like other corvids like Steller's jays and scrub jays that they can anticipate?
Yeah, like blue jay, a lot of jay species when they're caching seeds and like nuts to revisit later in the season or whatever, if they notice other birds or other jays see them caching those seeds, they'll actually move them to a different spot later, because scientists agree that they can anticipate the future intentions of other birds, which is kind of a wild concept.
It's pretty crazy
that a bird like knows that you're watching.
The future bird
is going to come and steal your seeds or nuts or whatever. So I think there's a lot of like maybe anthropomorphizing of animals, but there's also a lot of like wildly underestimating animals and like how intelligent and how adapted they are to different situations and scenarios.
It's really cool.
I think there's a lot to learn from them yet.
Well, I think you guys probably spending time with a lot of animals and in the wild a lot has given you a newfound respect for animals and wildlife in general.
I think we both have had that our entire lives, but being out here has only bolstered it. And like, because I feel like that's something like, I don't know, I was the annoying kid who was always like, did you know? And I spouted off some random fact, but I do totally feel like that being out here has only served to like prove that more. Like there's just so much we don't know, and it's incredible. Like it's so cool.
Yeah. I think it's really sad that a lot of places have lost a lot of biodiversity in place of like other, I guess, industries and like mining or agriculture or whatever. So I do think like moving forward there's a lot of place for like ecotourism to grow, and even places that are not traditionally like ecotourism zones. But if like we can preserve or like reestablish the biodiversity that were in those places, like that can become a thriving economy in and of itself.
And it only serves to like bolster mental health, spending time outside. Like there's multiple studies about that. Like I think it was probably like some Instagram psychologist thing, but I did read somewhere that it was like, not that that's invalid, but you know, it's not like a paper. But But I've read somewhere that like spending 20 minutes near water is like proven to boost your mood.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Right.
And like, I don't know. I think just being outside has that effect.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and I think part of it is having that like faith that if you do enough stuff, eventually you'll find something that does resonate with you that you do care about.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to close it?
Yeah. Sure. Right. We probably have to close it from the outside.
Nah, I can get it.
Is Tara there? Oh, you have to go. You have to actually hold the out. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Oh, big drops.
Probably too loud, but whatever.
Is it too loud?
We'll survive. It's okay.
Okay. Sorry, Montana's a little...
I recorded a podcast a week ago, and at some point it was like the hardest rain in Idaho in a while. So I just it was one I was really excited for too, and it was
oh my gosh.
Yeah, we just kind of pushed through it.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Feed the plants.
Feed the plants. Yeah. Well, we've been going for about an hour or so. Do you guys have any initial or any ending thoughts or anything, or anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know. If you're at all interested in experiencing like a wild or beautiful place, you're fortunate, and I would say don't take advantage of that if you can. Because the more people that do, the more we care about it, and the more it'll be accessible to people.
Yeah, and it is meaningful, and you can have a job doing it as well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You definitely can.
Yep.
There are so many jobs out and about in wild places.
Yeah. Sick.
I agree with that.
How should people follow you guys?
I have an art account.
I'll link it.
Yeah.
You can follow her art account. It's Taipaku Draws.
Yeah.
I do some wildlife photography. Wade Holm.
Wade Holm.
That's
Wade
it.
Holm.
The Wade Holm.
Wade Holm.
Sick.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Christian.
Yeah.
You're an
Cool.
inspiration.
Thanks,
True.
homie.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's true.
I'll cut it there.
Okay.